Hello and welcome to Around the Acorn at Elon University. I'm Daniel Towery.
I'm Jack Smith.
And I'm Jake Soronis.
So now let's start with our segment 1. This will be questions around the leagues, just all over whatever sport. So let's start with the first one. Is the recent NBA gambling scandal a turning point for how the league handles integrity and betting?
I think that it will lead to a turning point in how the NBA handles betting and integrity. Currently, players are not allowed to bet on the NBA or its affiliated leagues, but they can bet on other sports. I think that players being able to bet on these other sports can negatively affect them and encourage them to bet on themselves in the future. In addition, there is indefinite punishment for NBA players right now, so I think an addition of that could be helpful in the future. Also, the NBA could limit the types of betting to only those that are of higher risk. For example, a rule could be made where players have to play a certain amount of minutes before they can go out of a game so that they don't bet on the under for themselves.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely been, integrity's definitely been turned up a notch, especially since the last time we caught an NBA player betting on himself, named Porter, and just, I think them bringing in, federal investigation, and it's going around all leagues. All teams in the NBA got a memo, just again saying you guys obviously cannot do this. So I think bringing in actual law enforcement obviously turns it up a notch and just tells the league this is not just an NBA problem. This is an integrity and this is your job. This is a big problem. So I think watching this scandal be released compared to the last one in the NBA shows that there's been a huge increase in the severity of this issue.
Yeah, and with the federal government getting involved now, the NBA has to do something to prevent this from happening again. So doing some type of rules surrounding this gambling issue, they just really need to do something, or else if they don't, then I guess the trust in the league and everything is going to get messed up in the NBA. So now let's move on to the next question. Should the NFL change its playoff seeding format so that wildcard teams can be seeded higher than some of the division winners, basically are based purely on record?
I disagree completely. I think that totally eliminates the importance of division games, especially because you're playing 6 of those games a season, and I think that's the whole point of it. You have those divisional rivalries. It's why it's so important in the league. And if you're just going off record, I understand, in theory, the best team should have that advantage of playing at home, but that's not how the NFL is structured. I think it's worth having that 9-8, 8-9 team get a home game. I just think that's worth it. It's unfortunate if you're like the Chargers a couple years ago where you're 10-4, 11-4, and you got to go away, but you got to win your division. That's how the NFL has always been. Now, if we're talking college, I'd probably say the other way, but I think with how the NFL is structured right now, I think just the way divisional games are played throughout the season. There's no reason that the teams with the best record should get the first 4 seeds. I still think it should be the winners of every division.
Yeah, and you're preserving those divisional rivalries, but you're also even though a team may be better than the higher seed, it still could be considered an upset, and those upsets are way better to market for the NFL and keep the audience interested, keep it less predictable for the fans watching at home.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to disagree with y'all here. After watching the playoffs last season with the Minnesota Vikings being 14-3, having to play a much harder opponent being a first-round exit, that's just part of it. Also, the Buccaneers, who were 10-7, they won the NFC South, had a much easier division with the Falcons, Saints, Panthers. I just think that maybe we could someday see teams that have better records against other division winners getting higher seeds, but I think it also could affect TV ratings as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the NFL really wants to keep that unpredictability going, or else no one's going to want to watch it. So now that we talked about the NFL, let's go ahead and move on to NCAA with football, basketball, all college sports. Is the NCAA name, image, likeness era doing more harm than good, or yeah.
So, in my opinion, I think you can split this kind of up between different parts of sports. So, overall, in my opinion, for college sports, it's doing more harm, especially when you look at programs like smaller D1 schools like Elon University. They're having to recruit players year in and year out, whether that be for high school or at the college level. So, that includes people that are already playing on their teams, like sophomores, juniors. So, that's another aspect that is now in place for teams. But for players, I think that it's actually helping them. It's giving them a profit while also letting them practice business skills and also training their PR skills.
Yeah, I guess I'll go with I kind of agree with you where it really depends how you look on it. If you're looking at TV ratings, especially for football and basketball, you see $8 million contracts, more people are going to watch those players. I'm sure just having this, like, we'll say Carson Beck, who is getting that type of money down to U Miami. There's no reason for me to watch Carson Beck. I don't care for U Miami. Don't really care for college football as a true fan. However, I know he's getting paid a ridiculous amount of money to play football. I'm going to watch to see if he's any good or not. However, just from a fan perspective, I think it has absolutely been blown out of proportion from the start. It's just tough when you see like all-time great coaches like Nick Saban, Jim Laranga, Tony Bennett walk away mostly for the NIL. They don't know what to do with it, and it's just so tough when you see, just people like that leave the sport, and it's very avoidable. I also think I don't like how unproportionate it is. Of course, college basketball and football are bringing in much more views than soccer and other sports. However, because it's 18 to 23-year-olds, I really think it should be structured in a way where they look at NIL as a pie chart, and it's somewhat equally distributed. Obviously, if your sport's bringing in the most money, you deserve to get more of it. However, it's so lopsided that you'll hear someone play Division I sports and you think, oh, they're probably making a good amount of money, and 90% of the time that's not true. It's really the 1%ers of college athletics who are making this insane amount of money, and I don't think a college athlete should be making that amount of money. And I think there are other athletes who are playing less viewed sports that should be earning a portion of that money as well.
Yeah, and it's definitely hurting the programs more than the players. Players are ultimately benefiting from this whole thing, but I feel like with the programs, it just kills the Cinderella story sometimes with the football teams and the basketball teams. It really just kills because you're just consolidating all the better players because a school has more money than another one, and just disrupting the competitive balance to this. But you can see the players go from like being at a mid-major school all the way up to the powerhouse school in the whole nation. So I think that's a really great thing for the players. So now, speaking of players, let's go ahead and move on to, is Shohei Ohtani the best MLB player of all time? What do you guys think?
I'm gonna say not yet. I think he needs more on his resume. It's ridiculous because he has put up numbers that we have never seen before. I totally understand that. However, I am a big believer in longevity, especially in a sport like baseball where of course there's that 1 in a million chance, but you're really not going out there and risking your life like football and maybe with basketball. Just obviously way less it's way less injury prone, and I think with the excitement around a pitcher and a hitter, we've really forgotten about the numbers of players recently Mike Trout, who was the consensus best player in the NBA for around a decade for sure. And obviously Shohei is putting up numbers hitting and pitching. However, I still think it just needs more time. Needs more time to marinate in the league. He's done great, and if he stays on this trajectory, it's without a doubt he's the best player ever. However, where we're sitting today, I can't say that he is the best MLB player of all time.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think same boat with longevity. There's been more time to see how he goes throughout his career, because baseball really is a super long career compared to other sports. And then the main reason I think people are beginning to argue this now is in the NLCS they had this past season versus the Brewers. He recorded a game with 10 strikeouts and 3 home runs, pretty much carrying the Dodgers to a victory. You just don't see that you never see that. So that's a good argument for him. But I do think he needs more time to really show how good he is. He is really good.
Yeah, but just like with the sport in general, with baseball, it's a team sport. It's really hard to label like, oh, this is the greatest of all time, compared to some other players in the league. And historically, it's just like you go from like pitchers throwing like 90 miles an hour in the past times, now throwing like 105 or something right now. It's just really hard to find that label for the greatest of all time. But I do think that he's now won 4 MVPs. He is in the running for being the GOAT of all MLB. And I would almost argue right now that he is, for me at least, because just seeing it happen right in front of us is amazing. And I know Babe Ruth did it, but he did, later in his career, he started pitching and he was really good. It was only for that short amount of time, but Shohei Ohtani has done this two-way player for the entirety of his career right now in the MLB.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost just like it's nothing that we were prepared for, and it's just so hard to give someone that title so early in their career. I mean, we're going to be watching Shohei Ohtani for what I think at least the next 10 years. So it's almost like you want him to earn that. Not that he hasn't yet, but it reminds me of Patrick Mahomes. When they went back to back, and it's like, he really is on trajectory for this. Of course, a little different. Didn't have the amount of Super Bowls and MVPs. Tom Brady had at that time. But it's just so hard to give him that title when there's been players in the past too of like, you can absolutely say like, yes, I think you've earned this. So I mean, it's really hard, but he's not that far off, and I have no doubt my mind will get there for sure.
All right, now moving on to conferences in college football. Is the Big Ten the best conference in college football? What do you guys think?
I do not think so. So I grew up in the South. I watched SEC ball growing up. I think the SEC has the edge over them. And the main thing that a lot of people argue about for the Big Ten is their playoff performance. But when you argue about that, you have to look at the actual seasons that these teams go through. The SEC has lots of teams that will play 3 or more ranked opponents during a season. While in the Big Ten, like this season, Indiana and Ohio State have played 2 ranked opponents in total between both the teams. And then also, just looking at this season as well, the top 4 teams in the SEC, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M have played 13 games against ranked opponents, while the top 4 teams in the Big Ten, Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, and USC, have only played 9. So I think that's a pretty big factor.
And I kind of agree with you. The SEC is really waiting for their crown to be taken right now because they still have it, in my opinion, right now. But like the Big Ten right now, if we're talking about this year, they have the deepest conference that is like at the top, especially with the teams like Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon. But if you look at the recent championships, recruiting dominance, and like full conference depth, SEC is still having that.
Yeah, I kind of, I guess I agree with both of you. Right now, where we're sitting, again, I would say I do believe the Big Ten is the best conference in college football. Just because, I mean, we look at the top 25. The question for college football right now who's going to beat Ohio State, and then of course you have Indiana, Oregon up there, and Michigan is in the top 25 as well right now. However, I do kind of go back to what you were saying. I think come playoff time, we will see some of these Big Ten teams on upset watch. I think the SEC is more built for that now. I think the Big Ten needs some more years in the spotlight in the big moments against ranked opponents, like you said, to really prove that they are the best team in college football. However, I mean, I do think Ohio State's doing a lot of the heavy lifting. I really don't know a team that's going to beat them right now. I'd be shocked to see them lose anywhere else besides the national championship. Still would be shocked to see that, but I think right now I'm comfortable saying the Big Ten is the best conference in college football for sure.
Mm-hmm. And now that we're talking about like conferences, let's go ahead and move down to another sport in the NCAA, soccer. Right here at Elon University, it's actually being hosted just 30 minutes down the street to UNC Greensboro. What is the Elon men's soccer? What is their limit for the NCAA tournament? How far can they go?
So I think with the men's soccer team, they've had a great season so far. I think their limit though is second round. I think they tied UNC Greensboro this past season. I think they can win that game on Thursday, but they do have to play at Virginia next week if they were to advance. And they're number 2 in the country right now, so I just don't see them making it past that game.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just I feel very, very loyal to this men's soccer team. I'm ecstatic that they have made it this far. It's always been that CA conference championship game that's really held them back. Got through this year, but last year we saw Vermont go all the way. Nobody saw it coming. One of the biggest, just college upsets in sports history. And I mean, my question is, I'm just like looking at how Elon played in the CA tournament. I don't know why they can't do the same. I mean, their whole problem this season has been offense. Just really haven't been able to connect everything together in this tournament. And in the playoffs, we saw players who weren't getting on the score sheet as much scoring. You had Jameer Flowers, and you had obviously Martin Kozak, who was just going off the charts, and your defense was still doing very well. I think it will just come down to coaching scheming. Obviously, head coach Mark Reeves has been very successful at Elon. And I just think teams that get in the tournament, I really do believe anyone can beat anyone. And I really think it's all about game plan and how you stack up against your opponents. Obviously, UNC Greensboro we tied to early in the year, and we have not played an opponent of the likes of UVA. But Elon's played a lot of. They've played the number 10th ranked team in the nation multiple times this season in Clemson and in Duke and in UNC Greensboro, and they came out with no wins, a loss, and 2 ties. And again, I think right now the offense is really clicking in a special way that I have a lot of faith in them. I think this is the best they've looked all season, and they're doing it at the right time.
Yeah, and solely talking on momentum right here, Elon has it. They have scored 9 goals out of their last 2 games, 6 in the championship, or 6 actually in the semifinal, and then 3 in the championship. They've had consistent defense throughout the whole season. If they can keep up that momentum and that offense, especially, then they will have a really good chance at winning this against UNC Greensboro. But what I'm looking at right now is Elon's road matchups compared to UNC Greensboro's home matchups. Right now, the Phoenix are 2-3-3 away compared to UNCG's 8-1 home record. It really just doesn't look good for the Elon if we're looking at that. But we also saw that they did tie UNC Greensboro, meaning that they can hold their defense or their offense up with the consistent Elon defense. So I think it's going to be a really good matchup, and just coming up this Thursday. And now we'll just go ahead and shoot you back to break. We welcome you back to Around the Acorn at Elon University. Now let's go ahead and do our segment 2 with the hot seat. We will be doing whatever team, whatever player, whatever coach, whatever conference is on their way out. And we're just going to discuss it right here. So who wants to go first?
I can start it off because I think this is the only right answer right now. I think the whole Atlanta Falcons organization and head coach Raheem Morris is in the hottest seat in all of sports right now. Just you come in with all this momentum, all this offensive power, and you have a year under your half a year under your belt with Michael Penix as your quarterback. You're looking to make a nice run, and nothing has clicked this season. It hasn't just been tough losses. They've been blown out by teams that they really shouldn't be. It's just tough. I think after the season ends, because now you lose Michael Penix, I really don't know where you go from here. I don't know what your goal is, where you currently stand. But if I'm Drake London, Bijan, even Kyle Pitts, and at this point Michael Penix, I'm really looking at what else is there for me out there. And if I'm the Atlanta Falcons organization, I'm really I think Raheem Morris is absolutely coaching for his job at this point. And it's just how they're losing these games. It's not one score games. It's close to the fourth quarter. It's not determined by 1 or 2 plays. They are just simply being outplayed by opponents who they probably good opponents, not good opponents. And it's been a very ugly season. And I think this past week you catch just such a hard hitting loss that I think everyone is either playing to get out of there, playing to keep their jobs, or I just don't even know. I think it's a real barnyard explosion there in Atlanta right now.
Yeah, and they have like some of the skilled players that you need to succeed, like for a team, but just something isn't clicking right now. I don't know what it is, but it just really isn't.
Definitely. Yeah, so my hot seat right now is Coach Shane Beamer with the Gamecocks. Came into the season looking like a team that could do a lot of damage in the SEC with Lenore Sellers at QB and a really good receiving core, but they have done the complete opposite. They were 1-6 in SEC play, and they just lost to 2 ranked opponents in a row. And those were games that they were controlling in the second half. They were up on Alabama by 6 points in the fourth quarter, and they were beating A&M by 27 points, something like that, in the second half. And they came back and beat them. So I just think that South Carolina's expectations this season were up here, and now they're just down here. And I just think it could be a bad situation for Shane Beamer.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and stay on that college football train. Go ahead and shift over to the ACC conference. Who's at the bottom? It's Boston College. Right now, they're 1-10 in 1-10 in like national play and 0-7 in the conference. It really just isn't looking good for them, for their head coach Bill O'Brien. Boston College is known for having kind of middle of the table teams, but they haven't had bad of a season since 2012. While all the other years they've been like 6-7, they just haven't gotten over that hump ever since 2009. But they really need to just look for something to like flip or like something to change over there. And then they're also just spreading all their passing yards throughout like all their QBs because they're getting injured, and just something needs to change over there. And yeah, but that is our hot seat. We're gonna also just send you back to break, and we'll come back for our wild take segment. Welcome back to Around the Acorn at Elon University. We're gonna go ahead and head to our third and final segment, wild take. Whatever wild take there is, whatever wild thing that you think is gonna happen in the sports world, we're just gonna go ahead and discuss it. And yeah, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
All right, so I'm just going to stay in the college football world, and I'm saying that Haynes King will be the Heisman come this Saturday after the championships are played for conferences. I think he's going to beat Georgia, rivalry weekend, and then he's going to lead Georgia Tech to the ACC championship. They're going to win that too, and that Saturday night he'll have that 45-pound trophy.
And what about that one loss to NC State?
Yeah. I think they're gonna forget about that after the Georgia win, because it's Georgia. Like, come on, if you beat Georgia, you're pretty important. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and shift to the basketball side, men's basketball, but we're gonna stay in the ACC because it's UNC Chapel Hill that has been blowing up the standings right now. The media outlets coming back from like a horrible season last year where they just, the expectations were high, they were way below them. They have a legitimate path to being top 10 in the NCAA. And just because of their impact of the newcomers, you got Caleb Wilson, who is potentially going to be National Player of the Year right now. And then you got Henry Vesar and then Luka Bogovac that are also just amazing players right now for UNC Chapel Hill. But they have that little hiccup already. Seth Trimble, their starting shooting guard, has broken his forearm, who is one of the core players at UNC Chapel Hill, and he's been here throughout his whole career. I think that's going to shake some things up. It might have some movement in the roster right now, which it already has with Luka getting more playing time. But yeah, just they showed their talent against Kansas already this year, and I think they're just ready to be that top 10 nationally ranked.
Top 10 player of the year, that's pretty, that's a lot, just there. There's no one you think that's scary in the ACC with them. You really think it's all theirs, or?
I mean, you got Duke.
Yeah.
But you see that first. You see that first game with Duke where one of the twins just didn't perform as well, but he is performing good again. But I don't know. I'm still thinking it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm staying in the college world. However, I'm staying right here at Elon because I think the Elon men's soccer team is absolutely going to leave their region in the tournament. I'm so high on them right now. As I said earlier, they are like absolutely playing their best soccer they have all season. It's again something I also touched on earlier. There's 7 different goal scorers of the 9 goals scored in the CAA playoffs. That's not something we were seeing all season. Not something we saw last season either. This is new to Elon. They're not reliant right now. And even though those 7, even though those goal scorers, you have players like Kozak, who's it's hard for him not to get on the score sheet, scoring and assisting. And you had Jackson Levitt, who had a all-star regular season coming into the playoffs. I mean, I don't expect to see anything different from him. And with their opponents, we talk about UNCG and UVA, who are going to be, it's the 2 teams they'll play first. After that, it's out of their hands. UNCG and UVA are both coming in the tournament with 1 loss. Elon is coming in on a 3-game win streak, and they've only lost 2 of their last 10. Some of those games were ties. However, you talked about Elon's momentum coming in. It's just, it feels like I'm watching March Madness right now. I'm looking at everything, and I don't see a world where Elon cannot win either of these games, especially because, as you mentioned, we played UNCG. It's hard to beat a team twice. They didn't beat them, so you don't have to worry about that. They're due to beat them, if anything. And again, I talked about Vermont. Of course, you have a powerhouse UVA, second ranked in the entire bracket. However, as I mentioned, they're coming off a loss to SMU, a shocking loss, especially. It definitely rattles up the players a little bit, and I just have such a feeling with this team. They look not only great on the field, they look so connected off the field as well. I really think this team could be something special, and it would make me the happiest student at Elon University if they were able to make a run at this thing.
Yeah, they just need to keep that momentum. I think the big point for them to capitalize going into UNCG is keeping possession of the ball. I think that was one of the biggest problems against Campbell earlier in the game until they broke through, winning 6-3. But I think they just need to keep possession of that ball, try and minimize mistakes around the field. You got defensive players like Charlie Kitch just making plays, diving, anything. He's making plays all over the defensive side of the field. So the consistent defense and the offense that has recently broke through, they're really going to be a tough one to beat.
Yeah, definitely. And even just their goalkeeper Jackson Levitt, with all of his saves he had, especially during the championship game. I was watching that game from the stands, and there were goals. I don't know how he was able to block those shots. It was absolutely insane. So I think they're set up really well for this tournament.
And we'll see Elon play at UNCG this Thursday. Thank you for watching. This is Around the Acorn at Elon University. I'm Daniel Towery.
I'm Jack Smith.
And I'm Jake Seronis.
And thank you for watching.